It's safe to say Nebraska coaching staff is going to look completely different next season. There have been multiple rumors over these past couple weeks, over these past couple months, that huge shakeup is about to happen in Lincoln, whether it's with our offensive coordinator who is potentially eyeing a new head coaching gig. We'll talk about it. A firing being made at our O-line spot, at our D-line spot, whether or not that should happen. A couple other positional coaches who might be on the way out to get raises, to get promotions, and so much more. So we're going to go over every single Nebraska coach, who stays, who leaves, and everything else you need to know. So really quick, this is a loaded video. Hey, if you're having a good day, because I know I am, hit that like button. And also, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan, internet subscribed, what are you waiting for? For daily content talking Huskers, it's no brainer. It takes 2 seconds. Join the family. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, we have a lot to talk about. It's safe to say Nebraska's coaching staff is going to look completely different next season, whether it's at our coordinator spot, positional coach spot, and so much more. I mean, if you're looking nationwide right now, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, we have never seen so many head coaching vacancies in November ever. At least in my lifetime, but I believe in your lifetime too, because of the new era with the transfer portal, with the NIL, a lot of these schools are firing coaches earlier and earlier in the process. And because of that, these teams are going to be hiring head coaches. They're going to be hiring coordinators. They're going to be hiring positional coaches. And you better believe Nebraska staff, people are going to be coming after our pieces, after our guys. So Nebraska, we have to be prepared to defend, to keep them here as long as possible. But inevitably, we know how coaching works. Some coaches are going to leave. Some coaches might be one and done, who've been here for only 1 year, 2 years. They might go on to greener pastures. So let's talk about it. We'll get to Dana Holgorsen. We'll get to the O-line spot, D-line spot. But I want to get things started with, in my opinion, the coach who I am most nervous about leaving, who I think out of all of them, he's the most probable to not be here in 2026. And this is a coach that is widely underrated. Nobody ever talks about him. Nobody ever gives him his flowers. This is our brand new DB's coach, Addison Williams. Now, we know that Addison Williams, he came in from Central Florida at the start of this year. He was replacing John Butler, who got promoted to our DC spot. And there weren't really too many expectations for Addison Williams. While he had a decent tenure with Central Florida, he was not only their secondary coach, but he was also their defensive coordinator. It wasn't phenomenal. He kind of took a worse job to come to Nebraska, even though Nebraska, of course, is a better program. So we didn't really have the highest expectations for him. We knew he was a decent recruiter. We knew that he was a decent developer. But it's safe to say Addison Williams has blew every single expectation out of the water, and it's not even particularly close. He has been not only Nebraska's best positional coach this year, he's arguably been Nebraska's best coach, period, this year. Maybe not named Mike Eckler. Okay, I tweeted this out about a week ago. Addison Williams is the most underrated coach in America. First off, Nebraska right now has the #1 secondary in the country. We had a terrible secondary last year. There were a multitude of injuries, a multitude of players who never lived up to expectations. In one season, with basically no transfers in that room, he made it one of the worst to literally the best in almost every single statistic. So clearly he's a great developer. He's a great players coach. Every single player in the secondary loves Addison Williams. You know, he's the best recruiter on the staff. I mean, you look at the class of 27 right now, they're going after multiple 5-stars. You're going after, Juju Johnson, Duve Williams, and Arian Washington, thanks to him. Okay, not thanks to Matt Rule, not thanks to, John Butler. It's thanks to him, thanks to Addison Williams, because he's a great recruiter. And also, it should be mentioned around him, he has a past of being a DC. Okay, he's been a defensive coordinator before, and he probably wants to be a defensive coordinator again. So you better believe that these other programs, especially in the Big 10, but also in the SEC, he has ties there. He has ties in the Big 12. You better believe they're paying attention to what he's doing. Nebraska fans aren't paying attention to what he's doing, but you better believe these other programs are. So am I saying Addison Williams is going to be a future head coach next year? No. But what I think is a very real possibility is, let's say Auburn. Okay, Auburn is going to have a brand new head coach. Auburn is not going to have the first pick the litter when it comes to their defensive coordinators. So they might be on their 7th or 8th option. They might say, you know what, Addison Williams, he is experienced as being a DC. He's clearly one of the best secondary coaches in America. We want Addison Williams here. So Addison Williams, the reason why I think he might be on the way out is because he's coached so well in a short amount of time here where he deserves an upgrade. He deserves promotion, no question about it. So Addison Williams, I do think, unless Nebraska offers him a lot of money, gives him like a co-defensive coordinator spot, I do believe he's one of those guys we have to be concerned about leaving. Am I saying it's a done deal? No, because there's a lot that's going to happen over these past couple months. We don't even know who these head coaching hires are going to be. But with his connections, he's been a coach for a long time. He's a lot of connections. I do think he might be one of those guys who gets a call to be a DC or at least be a secondary coach elsewhere. I mean, like let's say LSU calls him up and says, hey, you want to be the secondary coach of LSU? He's going to take that job because that's a better job than being the secondary coach in Nebraska. It just is. I don't know, but I am worried that Addison Williams might leave. But if he does, that's coaching, right? It happens. Coaches leave. That's the sport. But we have to be prepared for that outcome. So Addison Williams is somebody who he's coached that well. I'm so proud of him, but that's the reason why I think he might be on the way out. Let's talk about two coaches in particular who just a couple weeks ago, the majority of the fan base wanted them fired. And let's talk about whether or not they will be fired, whether or not they're even going to be here next year. I mean, Raiola, obviously, when we had that performance versus Minnesota, gave up 9 sacks, literally every fan in Nebraska wanted this guy gone, including myself. I told you guys, Raiola, the offensive line is not getting any better. It's so inconsistent. You'll see the flashes and then you'll see the lows, and the lows are as bad as anything we've ever seen in Nebraska. But with all that being said, I can't deny the results, and I can't deny the improvement. Raiola has been coaching these past 3 weeks like his job's on the line, like he might be gone. The improvement this offensive line has shown from Minnesota to Northwestern to USC to UCLA, it's unbelievable. Great performance after great performance. Gave up 0 sacks versus UCLA. Now, were they perfect versus the Bruins? No. Were they perfect versus USC? No. But it's night and day compared to what they were at the beginning of the season. And this is also a room that's dealt with many injuries, with Pritchett going down at times, Gatula out for the year, Prohaska out, Rocco Spindler's been dealing with injuries. Like, they're getting more and more banged up, and they're playing better and better. That's because adjustments are being made in practice. And that's thanks to Donnie. So again, he's coaching at a level where he's going to be back next year. He was always going to be back next year, even if the offensive line continued to stink up the party. He was still going to be here no matter what, because we know there is a Raiola deep state. And I do want to address this real quick. While I do expect him to be here next year, I've got a multitude of comments about potentially bringing in an offensive line coach to pair alongside him, to have a co-offensive line coach, to have an offensive tackles coach. That's not going to happen. I want to make that very clear. We are not bringing in a co-offensive line coach, because if you're going to do that, that's a direct insult to Donnie. You're saying, we don't think you can develop very well. We're going to bring in somebody to do your job for you. Okay. We're not going to bring in a tackles coach to just focus on the tackles. That's stupid. Okay. Then we might as well bring in a center coach. We might as well bring in a guards coach. Like, you can't narrow down every single position and have a coach for every single one. That just doesn't happen. Okay. So, no, we're not bringing in a tackles coach, because that's a slap in the face to everything we're doing here. At some point, having too many coaches is not a good thing. having 40 coaches is not a good thing. So, Donnie is going to be here next year. That shouldn't be shocking to anybody, but I want to give credit where credit is due. He's done a really good job over these past couple weeks when everybody was calling for his head, including myself. Now, the conversation that, in my opinion, needs to be had is around Terry Braden, because this defensive line is reaching territories that we never wanted to see. Now, I want to bring you back to what Matt Rhule said at Big Ten Media Days. He expected this defensive line to be, and I quote, hell on wheels. So not only is this defensive line not that, it's not good, it's not even average, it's not even bad. It is downright horrendous. Now, again, it's showing minimal improvement. Like, they played okay versus UCLA, but they couldn't stop the run. They had 3 sacks, but for the majority of the ball game, they could not get to Nico. They missed many tackles. They don't have good technique. They're not big enough. They're not utilizing their talent very well. And again, I understand that we lost 3 players last year in Nash, Ty, Jamari. Those were key players, but those are really the only key players that we lost in the D-line. Our defensive line should not go from one of the best in America to literally the worst because we lost 3 players. We had a lot of returning production come back who we felt really good about. And there's a reason why we didn't take too many players in the portal, because we thought the D-line would be solid. But we brought in Terry. And I'm not mad about the D-line at the start of the year. I wasn't calling for Terry's head at the start of the year, because I understand things happen. But what I'm mad about is this defensive line has not progressed. It just hasn't. I mean, sure, it had one of its better performances against UCLA, but it's still one of the worst in America. It's still terrible. This interior specifically is terrible. Like the 0 techniques, the 3 techniques, awful. That's a problem. That falls on Terry. Okay. I understand he's only been here for a couple months, but you should have thought about that when we hired him. Okay. Addison Williams has also only been here for a couple months, and he brought the secondary to be, average to great. So there's no excuses for Addison. Why are we making excuses for Terry? Also, Terry Brain has been our worst recruiter on the staff. That's objective. Okay, 0 defensive line commits to this very day on the D-line in the class 26. So those are the facts. Now, am I calling for heads? Am I saying he should be fired? I'm not doing that. But we're going to keep this strictly factual. And the facts are this defensive line is one of the worst in the history of Nebraska football from a statistics standpoint, from a film standpoint. He can't recruit, he can't develop, he can't make in-game decision-making. Again, it's year one, but we're not making year one excuses for anybody else. We got to see rapid improvement quickly, because if this happens again next year, I mean, he got to be gone quickly. And I would be, interested in bringing maybe a defensive line coach to help alongside him. Even though I said it was stupid for the O-line, at this point, Terry, we got to bring in somebody else besides him. Because while I do believe it would be a slap in the face to Donnie and the whole Raiola family at some point with the D-line, it can't get any worse. So Terry Brain, we just need to have the conversation because he's been Nebraska's worst coach, unfortunately, this year. Then a couple others I want to talk about. Nikhil Shorts is interesting. I think he could be somebody who, is tampered with nationwide, right? And he's a great recruiter. I don't want to say he's done a phenomenal job with the developments of this receivers. Like, obviously Jacory Bunner's really not took a step forward. Dane Key's not take a step forward, go down the line. Like Cortez has been okay. He's a true freshman, right? So I can't speak of the development. It's only been 1 year. The recruiting's been solid, though. And a lot of people, within the industry really respect Nikhil Shorts. So I think he could get some interest nationwide. Am I saying it's going to leave? No, but it's just somebody I kind of have my eyes out for. And then the big conversation we need to have is Dana. Because I'll be the first to tell you, Dana Holgerson's offense has not lived up to expectations this year. From a statistics standpoint, from a efficiency standpoint, play calling standpoint, red zone standpoint, it's everything, right? The pass attack's been awful this whole year. So, I'm not going to sit here and, say Daniel has been awful. No, I think he's been average, maybe a little bit above average, but he's definitely not the offensive guru we thought he was going to be. So, okay, we addressed that at the very beginning. The reason why I bring Dana up is because I, to this very day, believe that right now he's a top 3 candidate for Oklahoma State. Absolutely. Absolutely, unequivocally, he's a top 3 candidate. He might be the number 1 candidate for Oklahoma State. Why? Well, number 1, Oklahoma State is not a good job anymore. So if you're saying, Oklahoma State can do better, who's better? Who are they going to get? It's Oklahoma State. They have no NIL. Okay, they're in the Big 12. They're crumbling. They have no talent there anymore. Like, they're not going to get any poll. No coach worth anything is going to go to Oklahoma State. So I don't know if they can do better than Dana. Even though Dana hasn't been the best coordinator here, again, they're not going to do better than him. Number 2, we know that Dana has experience in the Big 12, whether it's at West Virginia and Houston. He knows how to win in that conference. And number 3, this is the big one. Dana has connection to Oklahoma State. Okay? He was at Oklahoma State as an offensive coordinator there. One of the best OCs in America. So I do believe Oklahoma State will pursue Dana. I absolutely believe they will. Now the question is whether or not Dana will pursue Oklahoma State, whether or not he will be interested in that. And I know every Nebraska fan has an opinion. There are a million Nebraska fans. Every single time I talk about this, they say, Dana never wants to leave Nebraska. He wants to be an offensive coordinator for the rest of his career. You might not be wrong. Okay, you might not be wrong, but nobody knows that for a fact except for Dana. So don't use, he's 100% staying. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. Matt Rhule doesn't know that. And we've seen crazier things happen in coaching. And again, let's stick with the facts. The facts are he has a million ties to the Big 12 of Oklahoma State. The facts are Oklahoma State likely will pursue him. And the facts are he has been a head coach time and time again for over 20 years. Who says he really wants to give that up? Okay. I'm not disputing the fact that he might like being an offensive coordinator a lot. He might love it. There's less pressure. There's less recruiting implications. He might like it. But in his heart, do you really think he never wants to be a head coach ever again? After that's been his way of life the past 20 years. Do you think he just wants to give up? And he's only 50, in his 50s? Like, he still has 20 plus years of coaching. We're acting like he's some young guy, or some old guy. He's pretty young. So am I going to sit here right now and say he's automatically gone? No. But the narrative from a lot of Nebraska fans who say, well, Dana himself said he's 100% committed to Nebraska. You might not be wrong, but Dana's also said before that he's not thinking about the future and that right now he's committed to Nebraska, but he does not know what next year is going to look like. That's what Dana said. And Dana has never definitively shut down the head coaching rumors. He's never done that. So it should be talked about. It should be a conversational point. Am I confirming anything? No. Am I guaranteeing anything? No, but there is a possibility Oklahoma State goes after him, and I do think there's a possibility that Dana is interested. All right, and then last one I want to talk about before we get out of here. Phil Simpson is somebody who I think could be tampered with, absolutely. Again, we know that he's somebody who has a million connection to Florida. I think he's one of Nebraska's best recruiters on the staff, no question about it. We know that Florida State, they're going to have a brand new coaching staff. Florida's going to have a brand new coaching staff. I think South Florida's going to have a brand new coaching staff because their head coach is going to leave to greener pastures. So Phil Simpson, he was with Nebraska in 23. He got an upgraded job at Florida State. Then he got an upgraded job in Nebraska, returned to the Huskers this season. Who says that maybe Florida State, maybe Florida, they say, you know what, Phil Simpson, you've done a really good job. We're going to offer you a full-on linebacker coach job. Okay, you're not going to be only, the jack coach. You're going to be the full-on linebacker coach. He might take that and go back home, go back to his true state of Florida, which he loves. He loves that state. I don't know. Again, it should be mentioned. Like, this is somebody who I'm a little bit worried about. Because again, we know we got some good coaches here. And when you have good coaches, you better believe that some teams are going to go after them. I mean, that's just the way it goes. That's the way it goes in college football. So I think that is worthy of being discussed. As for the rest of the coaches, I mean, I don't really foresee anybody else leaving. I mean, John Butler will stay. Eckler will stay. He's going to retire here, I think, at this point. Phil Snow's going to stay. Dvorak will stay. Yeah, I don't really think anybody else can leave. So those are really the ones that are worthy of mentioning, but let me know your thoughts down below. All right, guys, if you made this far, hit the like button and subscribe and comment your thoughts about everything. I'm sure I'm going to get people agree or disagree. That's okay. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, folks, grad, government rule, and I'll see you in the next one.